to Courageous Conversations. I'm your host, Rebecca Sharp, and I am truly honored to bring you these testimonies that are woven into conversations meant to create a divine tapestry that captures beauty, grace, strength, passion, and you guessed it, courage. As you listen to how these wonderful men and women have overcome extraordinary circumstances so that they might show up each and every day in their chosen field of endeavor, my sincere hope and earnest prayer is that you too would be inspired to keep the faith, fight the good fight, and run your race. Please enjoy this episode and stay tuned because we have a remarkable lineup of speakers who will be pouring from the wonderful wells they've been given to encourage you, motivate you, and bring you into a greater awareness of the things God has put you on this earth to do. Enjoy the episode and be strong and courageous. Do not fear, because the Lord our God is with you wherever you go. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless. Hello and welcome to Courageous Conversations. I am your host, Rebecca Sharp, and today I have the truly extraordinary privilege of bringing one of my close friends, Mrs. Stephanie Trotter, on to Courageous Conversations. Stephanie is a wife, a daughter, a mother, and she is also a chief financial officer of a not-for-profit agency. She is truly a lady who is leading in so many areas of her life. Stephanie, thanks for coming on today.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca. I'm so happy to be here. It's just an honor to be on your show.
Yes, I know. We've talked about this moment, so it's just so beautiful to really be here. And speaking of moments that we shared together, can you tell us how you and I connected initially?
Oh my gosh. So as I remember, and it's been probably, I think it's been like 11 years because I left that firm. But anyway, as I remember it, I was working at a accounting firm, Plant Moran, and you were working at a startup charter school and they needed to engage an accounting firm. And so you and I connected, and I just remember back talking to you on the phone. I was like, she is so poised, and you were, young, and it was a brand new school. And, we connected over the phone, and then I came in to actually have a meeting with the charter school. And when I met you, you just had a light, just very poised and together and polished, and we just connected. We both left that endeavor, just moved on to greener pastures, but we've kept our connection over the years, and it's been an awesome relationship.
Oh my gosh, yes, I absolutely concur. I remember when we first met through those hallways, and yeah, it's just been flourishing ever since, and I'm very grateful for your presence in my life. And speaking of just jobs and kind of pivoting and doing different things, I'd like for you to talk a little bit more about your chief financial officer role at your non-for-profit agency now, but also some of the other roles that sort of led you into your dream job.
So currently, yes, I'll definitely talk about that. So currently, I'm a chief financial officer of a human services agency, which is brand new for me. And, we talked about being fearful and allowing your fear sometimes to not let you move into spaces because you have this, it's like I don't know, they call it the imposter syndrome. You're like, I've never done that before. I don't belong there. But this opportunity came up. I've always wanted to be a chief financial officer. It wasn't in a space that I was used to being in. So my expertise is schools and manufacturing and distribution. And this is a not-for-profit human service agency, which is providing services to, we have returning citizen program. We have just a multitude of programs, a homeless shelter. And then we also have, we provide services for children who have been in the they've been in, they're wards of the state. We provide residential treatment for them. So this is brand new for me, but it has been so rewarding because my thing was, I love numbers, but I didn't feel like I was being fulfilled. So, I felt like I was just calculating numbers sitting in my office, but what am I really doing and walk as far as walking in my purpose? And so this job allows me to combine my love of finance and also feel like I'm doing something in the community. So I currently am responsible for the finances and the operations, which includes food service, which is new also for me because I wasn't involved in food services before, and then all of the maintenance for all of our campuses.
Wow.
Yeah, which is it, but it's learning. And I love that it's challenging. And what I've learned in this role is, you can't be afraid to make decisions. You might not make the right decision all the time, but making no decision is worse than making a wrong decision. So it forces me to, I'm uncomfortable, but it forces me to just really grow, as far as learning a new industry for me. I have a really supportive, the CEO is amazing. And so I have his support because he understands it's brand new, but every day it's just a challenge. And so I really like that. But speaking of how I got there, so I started off, oh, go ahead.
Wake up as the chief financial officer. You've definitely hit different milestones. So we'd love to know more about your journey to this prize role.
Yes. So I started off working at Rouge Steel, which, I grew up in a family. I'm the first to graduate in my family, graduate from college. And what you did to be successful was you worked in a plant. And so, when I got a job at the plant, I thought it was the end all and be all. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna work at the plant. I don't need to go to college. And it was just, day in, day out doing the same thing. I've always had this itch. And so I was just like, okay, this isn't for me. I didn't really, I just didn't feel fulfilled. And so I left there. I took a pay cut to work at a bank. I took a $20,000 pay cut, but they were paying for me to go to school. So I went and finished my degree, graduated, started working at Plant Moran, which was an accounting firm. And again, I was always uncomfortable because I felt that everyone there they've been doing this since the beginning of their careers. And I was 30 years old when I graduated from college. And so, I was kind of behind everyone. And I just, there you have to either be a partner or a manager. And I just didn't feel fulfilled in those roles. I didn't want to be a partner at Plant Moran. I love Plant Moran. It's a beautiful place to work, but I just did not want to do auditing. I just didn't care for it. And so ended up doing consulting at schools, which is how I met you, which I really loved. I got to just, meet people. You traveled a lot. But again, that was just, I got married, I had a baby, and I wanted to be someplace stagnant. I won't say stagnant, but I wanted to be someplace stable because I traveled a lot in that career, in that role. And so I ended up being a finance director at a public school. It was a predominantly white, let's just say it was a predominantly white school district. It was a role that I really had to fight for because they had never had a Black finance director before. It was all white staff, all white school district. And I just kept saying, why can't I do it? I was like, prove to me why I'm not worthy of being in this space.
Wow.
And, my thing was always, I worked hard. I did whatever I needed to do to gain the knowledge. I'm huge on research. If I don't know something, I research it. And then I just made myself so indispensable where it was like, if you don't promote me, then I'll go somewhere else. So, because someone else will recognize my work. So I promoted to that. It was the finance director. Moved to another school district that was larger because I thought, okay, I just want more work because I wasn't feeling like very fulfilled. I was like, okay, I need a bigger team. And I need to, make more money. Got another job. I was a finance director and they added a few more responsibilities and I still didn't feel fulfilled. And then that's when the CFO role opened up at this. Then I took the opportunity, I applied for it, and I'm here.
Amen. That is such a fascinating journey. And I just love how you've continued to challenge yourself. You've continued to demonstrate courage and boldness. And it's like, listen, if I'm not fulfilled here, I'm not afraid about jumping into the deep and going somewhere else until I finally get to the place that I ultimately know I belong. And now here you are today doing work that is fulfilling, that is inspiring, and where you really know that you're making a difference. So thank you so much for just sharing what that navigation has been like for you.
Yeah, definitely. My father used to tell me, he used to say, Stephanie, your life is like a movie. And when you look back on that movie, you want to be able to say, did I do everything I wanted to do? He's like, because once you're at the end of your life, it's over. So that's what I tell myself. I'm like, I can't be afraid, if I have a feeling, a itch, and I'm not feeling challenged or I'm not feeling fulfilled, I can't let fear stop me from doing what I want to do. Because, I tell people this: if you're educated, you have experience, you have connections, you'll always land on your feet. So you can't be afraid to, take a step because you're like, well, what if it doesn't work out? Well, if it doesn't work out, then you go somewhere else. But it will. But it's just like, if you continue to stay in the same space, I would feel more regretful not taking that leap versus staying somewhere, or versus going somewhere and it didn't work out. So that's just what I've always told myself.
And your life is a testament to that. And you do land on your feet. And
I've
it
landed on my feet.
out, work together for your good. So can you talk about, as a leader in particular, how do you really focus on more what you're putting into people than just what you're getting out of them?
So for me, and I'll speak directly, like even with my staff, I know what it's like to have someone always try to get something out of you and not really try to put anything in you. And so, I've worked for people who didn't care about that I had a family, who, when things got rough, when we were understaffed, didn't roll their sleeves up and offer to help. It was just like, Stephanie, get this done, get this done. And that only makes your staff feel as if they're just on an island and they don't really feel like you support them. And so I always try to think of that. Like I try to put myself in people's shoes. I try to be empathetic. And I'll tell myself, okay, if I'm asking someone to do something, how would I feel if they were asking? How would I feel if I was in their shoes? I always try to tell my staff, I support you. I'm not afraid to, I don't live my life of, and this is a struggle for me because I don't delegate well, which you need to do as a leader, because my struggle is I feel sometimes when I delegate things that I don't want anyone to ever feel like, well, Stephanie thinks she's too good to do that because she's a chief executive, she's a chief financial officer. But I just know that I want my staff to know I'm not asking you to do anything that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. And I know that when you really make people feel supported, they'll walk through fire for you. They will stay longer, but you have to be understanding in the same aspect of, okay, I've worked longer for you. We had a project that we needed to get done. Don't sit here and micromanage me about what time I got in and what time I left. So I try to, really balance those two things. As far as I give my staff full autonomy. I'm like, you're a professional. I don't care what time you got in. I don't care what time you left. Did the work get done? I have people who call off and I'm like, you don't have to give me war and peace about why you need today off. You just need it off. Maybe today is a mental health day. Because I remember being in that space. I remember having to, so yeah, I'm real sick. I'm not really sick. I just don't want to come in today. I've worked, a ton of hours this week. I just need some time to myself. So I just try to be empathetic and understand what it's like to be in people's shoes when you're asking them to do certain things.
That is so good. And I wish more leaders would have that perspective, especially because it's like, again, we did not all just wake up and become chief executive officers, right? We've all had a
Chief
journey.
financial officer. Girl, CEO is next, but chief financial officer.
Okay, so we didn't all just wake up as chief officers, right?
Yeah.
Like we all
Yeah.
had to, that we've all been on a journey. We've all worked for people. And I think it's just
Yeah.
that you have taken the lessons that you have learned throughout your very colorful journey and you're now applying them to your life and making it easier for your staff to strike balance as they are professionals, but they also have families and
Yeah.
endeavors and things that they're doing with their lives, and recognizing, like, being empathetic. I think that
Yeah.
goes such a long way. And I know personally, when you do feel supported and recognized and seen, you do want to do more
Yeah.
for the organization, because you realize I'm not just a worker bee. You see me as a human.
Yeah, you see me as a human being. That's absolutely correct.
Exactly. And so I'll do more for you in my humanity because I feel really seen and valued, as opposed to just somebody who, a producer, somebody who's just getting
Right.
it. So that is awesome. And I want to talk about that too. Like, you mentioned that you have a family, and that you're married. And so how do you find balance in your life? I know that your children are really busy doing
Hmm.
awesome things. And so, yeah, can you talk about how you've been able to find that balance as a wife and a mother and a professional?
So I'm making these faces because I'm like, well, girl, I'm still working on finding balance. Luckily, so I have, and I'll just speak on it, I have a non-traditional situation. My husband, so I am the key earner in my household, and my husband is the person who takes care of our kids, because we learned early on in our marriage that we couldn't do both. So we can both be we have this career goal, and he has some goals that he wants to accomplish, but he's willing to take a back seat to my career right now until our kids can get older, and then he takes care of, he'll be able to do what he needs to do. But so I haven't really worked on that balance because I'll work late hours. But what I do try to do is when I'm with my babies, I'm present. When I'm with my husband, I'm present. I don't talk on the phone when I get home, because I know I've worked all day, and I just, I want to be able to have a conversation with my husband. I want to be able to listen to my babies as they talk about their day. So what I can say is, I work a lot, and that's just really self-imposed because I just want to try to stay on top of things. But then when I'm home, I'm present. I try to be. So I'm not a big you see, I'm not on social media. Um, I don't watch a whole lot of TV. I just try to make sure that, okay, I know I work these long hours, but on the weekends, I'm going to be present. I attend all of my older son, Chase, he plays football, he's playing basketball, he's running track. I'm going to be present. And he'll say sometimes like, Mommy, I know you're busy. No, I'm not busy. I'm never too busy for you. Wow. So that's, I guess, the balance. It's like, I've learned, when people say balance isn't always going to be 50-50. Your career is not going to be 50%, and your personal life isn't going to be 50%. There's some times where it's going to take 75-25. But when you do have that personal time, it's just very important to be present during that time. So I try not to email, when I'm at home, or I'll say, I need a minute right quick, let me do a little work, or I get up and work in the morning. But I don't want my family to always feel like it's just work, 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 because I tell myself again, like about that movie, I don't want to look up and my sons are grown, and I won't remember all that work I did, but I'll remember all the times I missed with my babies, or the times I didn't listen to my husband when he was trying to tell me a story because I'm so busy trying to email. So I try to keep that at the forefront. Like, Stephanie, what's really important right now? Some days I just have to walk away from work and say, today just have to be good enough. Like, I just have to, worry about tomorrow because I can't work, 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 and then neglect my family.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. And I just thank you for being vulnerable and transparent, because it can be easy to look at you and say, oh, she's got it all together. She has it figured out. But to really open your heart up, to me and to all of our viewers and listeners, and say, I don't have it all together, but I'm working on it each and every day. And as I look back, you can take inventory like, wow, okay, I'm gaining traction. I've got great momentum, and I'm learning, developing, and growing along the way. And I think, what more can we ask for from ourselves but to just continue evolving on the journey?
Beck, you are so good at this, girl. Let me tell you, just put it all in just such an eloquent way. But, I don't ever want to be fake. I've looked at people and I've wondered, how did they get there? And when we are not vulnerable and honest, yes, people are going to judge you. Do people judge my situation? Yes. Do I care? No, I used to. And that's part of me being in my 40s. I stopped caring what people think. Once you get in your 40s, you kind of stop caring what people think. If you're a person who cared before, you kind of stop like, what do I care what these people think of me? But what I really care about is if someone who's in the same space, if they're like, okay, I'll give you an example. If two people are working and making $70,000 a year, right? So that's $140,000 household. But if it takes you 50, 60 hours to make that $70,000, and you're both working and you're trying to make it work, and you have kids and you're arguing, you do have to have a conversation. That's what me and my husband did. We had a conversation. He said, and he told me, it was just the way he said it. He's like, babe, your career is skyrocketing. He's like, you have much more earning potential than I do. So, and it took me a minute to talk to him about it, because I was just like, he didn't want to, because he's a man, he's a very manly man. He's like, I cannot just let you work and take care of us. But he got laid off, and then it just kind of worked out. And then we were able to survive on my salary. And it was just like, well, why not? Yeah, people looked at us like we were crazy, but I say that I'm vulnerable about it and I'm open about it, because if someone else is looking at that and saying, how do they do that? This is how we do it. And I'm not saying it doesn't work for everyone. You do have to be very careful. You have to have conversations. But for us, it's the best situation. And I'm open about it, because if someone would have been open with me, I probably would have been able to talk to them. I kind of just navigated this through on my own. And then people would be like, oh yeah, my husband works from home too. I'm like, or my husband is a stay-at-home dad. I'm like, oh, because you don't think that, especially in our community, men don't do that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's so beautiful too that you have a partner who is supportive of you. And I want to talk about that as well, because the fact that he, sat you down and had that conversation, and he wasn't intimidated by your success. He wasn't jealous by the fact that your career was taking off and your dreams were coming true. But he's like, hey, how can I create the best environment, for you and our children to make sure that everybody is flourishing? So can you talk about, and I know that again, marriage is one of those things too, that's not always all rainbows and sunshine, how you guys really developed this rhythm and cadence in your relationship so that you guys could move your family forward.
Well, we got married 3 months after we met, right? So, and I tell him now, I'm like, I love you. I think I was in lust when we got married. It was crazy. It was just fun. I didn't ever think I wanted to be married. And so for me, it was like, oh, I can't believe it. I want to marry this man. So this is going to work out. So I say that to say we didn't really trust each other. We had a lot of arguments early in our marriage. I was pregnant right away. So I was navigating being a wife. I was navigating being a new mom, and I didn't trust him. And I'll say I didn't trust him in a way of trusting him that he has my best interest at heart. Whenever we would get into an argument, or if he would leave something in the, just small things, things like he left clothes in the middle of the floor, I would look at it like, oh, because you expect me to pick that up. And so then I would argue with him, because I don't think he has my best interest at heart. Yeah. And over time, and we went to counseling, but over time I learned, my husband, he loves me, he trusts me, he supports me, he wants the best for me. And so even when we little things that could blow up into big things, I have to step back and say, I'm not trying to win anything here, because I'm argumentative. And so I would try to argue him down, and he's not argumentative at all. And so when he wouldn't argue back with me, it's like, oh, well, you just, I'm trying to prove my point, and you're not helping me feel like I've won. And I had to learn it's not, in marriage, you're not winning anything by being against each other. And you have to really trust your partner and talk to them. So I assume good intent when it comes to him. And so even with this situation, even my mom, she was just like, so let me get this straight. He's going to stay home and you're going to work. Oh, that's just crazy. And it was just like, yeah, but it took some convincing to him, because he didn't want people to think that. He's like, there's no way I can stay home and take care of kids. Like, people are going to think, I can't let you work. And I was just like, but this isn't working, because he worked 12 hours a day from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I was a single parent. And I was like, but this isn't working. I can't get to, I'm missing meetings. And when he got laid off, it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
So we really, really had to talk about it. And I had to really be careful. It's not my money, it's our money. I had to truly be authentically about him being a stay-at-home dad. It couldn't be, well, you have to ask me to buy things. I really had to say, like, okay, this is our money. I'm earning it, but he allows me to do that. I don't have to worry about my kids. When the school calls me, he'll call me back like, babe, got it. I'm picking them up. And he takes care of my babies. Homework is done, food is cooked. I mean, we're a partnership, but he understands. He's like, in order for you to do what you need to do, I need to do what I need to do. And so I'll say, we always talk, even, we just assume good intent of each other. You have to, if you're going to be married. And I think that's the issue. In the beginning, we argued a lot because I didn't assume good intent, because I didn't know him well enough to understand, like, he didn't leave his drawers in the middle of the floor because he expects me to pick them up. He just left them in the middle of the floor because he forgot, or that's not important to him.
Exactly right. Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. And again, I just really appreciate your transparency when you're talking about some of the inner workings of your relationship, because you're absolutely right. It will help somebody else.
Yeah.
Gender roles are shifting so swiftly in our society now. And so I think it's important for people to be able to see themselves in others, and to know, like, it doesn't have to be this super traditional, way that our parents and our grandparents, it works for them. But those roles don't necessarily work for the very dynamic landscape that we're all navigating now. So it's wonderful to hear from somebody like you how you are, more untraditional, but it's working for you. It actually is helping you all to really thrive in greater ways. And so I just think it's really important for us to be able to hear from diverse voices. And that's why we're here. That's where Courageous Conversations really comes from. So thank you.
You're welcome. And last point I'll say is, I look at when our grandparents, our grandmothers and our mothers didn't have opportunities that we have, so it's kind of like for me, ever since we did this situation, my career has skyrocketed because I'm allowed to do things and focus on my career, not worry about certain things. And I can get home and be present, but I can attend the meetings that I need to attend, or I can work some of the hours that I need to and put in extra, excuse me, because my home situation is taken care of.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, everything has evolved, so
Right.
we have to evolve, and so do our situations as well. And I'm just so thankful to, your husband, because I'm so proud of you, and I'm excited to see the continued success that you will enjoy, because I know that you're destined for it, and so it's just it's a blessing to be along for the ride.
Well, I appreciate that.
And lastly, Stephanie, I just want to know, what do you desire for your legacy to be?
Mm. You know what? I don't necessarily think of it in those terms, but I do think I don't necessarily say what do I want my legacy to be, but I always say, when I'm gone, what would I want? Like everybody says, what do I want people to think of me? And I want people to think that I would hope that people felt like I was kind, that I was, a true blue, as my mother says. I was authentically myself. As I've gotten older, I've talked to you about this. I struggled with being authentically myself. I worked in a predominantly white world, and so I always felt like, well, I don't necessarily talk like that. I don't look like that. And how can I authentically be myself where I don't have to, what is it, code switch or switch code when I get on the phone? Like, I want to be myself. And so I would want people to feel that way. I was authentically myself, and that I actually cared about people, and I made them feel like I cared about them.
Well, I can absolutely attest to the fact that you are kind, you are authentic, and I know that you care about me, and I know
I
that
do
you
care about you.
and the people around you. So you are living the very thing that you desire for your legacy to be, and I can truly testify to that. Again, as I always tell you, so grateful to have you in my life. I appreciate you always saying yes to my ideas.
Yeah, they're great ideas.
You and supporting me along the journey. You are truly a blessing. And again, it is an honor and a privilege to call you a sister and a friend. So thanks for joining us today on Courageous Conversations, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca.
All righty. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye bye.